Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're taking a look at the source material on reAlpha Tech Corp, and we're tackling that core question everyone seems to be asking, especially with the stock's volatility. Is reAlpha Tech Corp actually a good buy right now? If you find this analysis helpful, please do subscribe, like, and maybe leave us a comment below.
Oh, and yeah, if there's a specific company you want us to look into, definitely let us know in the comments.
Right, that's exactly what we're trying to figure out. We've pulled together recent reports, financial analysis, basically everything detailing reAlpha's, well, extremely rapid expansion lately, plus their tech progress and some pretty significant market catalysts coming up soon. The idea is to connect all these dots for you, the listener, to give you a really well-informed view of where things might be headed in the near term.
Okay, sounds good. So let's maybe start with strategy first. Reading through the sources, it feels like the last few months have just been intense. They're pushing hard on this one reAlpha strategy. Yeah, intense is a good word. That one reAlpha thing, it's basically vertical integration cranked up to 11. They're trying to control, almost every step of the real estate and mortgage process.
Owning the whole chain.
Exactly. And that integration, it's not just about making things smoother internally. It's about controlling margins, obviously, but maybe even more importantly, it's about capturing data. In prop tech, data is king.
Right.
The faster they scale using this integrated model, the more data they gather, and that data feeds right back into their AI, which is arguably their biggest asset.
Okay, so let's get specific on that integration speed. So sources mentioned a big catalyst in October 2025. Something about Namche.
Namche.
Yep.
Yes, that's their proprietary operating system. Think of it as the central nervous system for the whole operation. It's designed to handle everything, right from finding a lead all the way through managing the property or the loan. Getting that fully integrated like they aimed for in October is absolutely critical if they want to scale up. Without Namche running smoothly, they just can't handle the kind of growth figures we're about to get into.
Makes sense. And that speed seems reflected in their geographic expansion too, right? Georgia back in August.
Yep. Launched the main AI platform in Georgia that made it state number 3. And then, bang, just this past October, the mortgage division pushed into Nevada. They brought in Jennifer Busserini to lead that charge. So, yeah, they're definitely planting flags quickly.
But that kind of speed,
yeah,
it costs money. And it needs tight management, I imagine.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the leadership changes. The sources highlighted Mike Legozzo becoming the new CEO back in August. That wasn't just shuffling shares. It felt like a real shift, Moving maybe from a founder-led vision phase to needing someone focused purely on operational efficiency. Like, okay, we've got this massive growth, 4,000% plus. Now we need someone who knows how to actually manage that complexity and make it profitable.
An efficiency expert, basically.
Sort of, yeah. And that efficiency push ties right into the tech you mentioned earlier, that September upgrade to their AI loan officer assistant.
Yeah, what's the big deal with that upgrade?
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The sources claim the AI now hits up to 99% accuracy in classifying documents.
99%.
99%. Think about what that means for the mortgage process. If you can automatically and accurately classify nearly all the documents up front, you potentially eliminate a huge chunk of the manual, time-consuming, and costly review stages. We could be talking about slashing loan origination costs by, maybe 30, even 40% compared to the old way of doing things. That's their competitive edge right there. That's the moat.
Okay, so they're moving fast geographically and technologically, but this has to lead us to the financials, the trade-off. Speed costs money, like you said. How hard did all this expansion hit the books?
Right. This is where the narrative gets complicated. We have to talk about the revenue growth first because those numbers are eye-popping.
Definitely eye-popping. Q1 2025.
Yeah.
A massive 4,432% year-over-year growth.
Staggering, isn't it?
And even Q2, when they were clearly spending heavily on expansion and the new CEO came in, they still pulled off 1,909% year-over-year growth.
And that Q1 number, the 4,432%, that's the headline figure driving a lot of the bullish sentiment, no doubt. But the critical question for any investor is, can they sustain anything like that? Was it boosted by one-offs as they entered new markets? Is it repeatable? Because right now, that growth has definitely come at a steep price.
Which is the flip side.
Yeah.
The Q2 earnings report.
Yeah.
It showed a widening net loss, didn't it?
It did, wider net loss. And the sources are pretty clear, attributing it directly to that aggressive expansion, launching new products, and interestingly, the full repayment of a $4.47 million debt.
Ah, okay. paying off debt.
Yeah, which is actually kind of a positive signal in a way. It's like, okay, we're burning cash on growth, but we're also cleaning up the balance sheet for the long term. It hurts short-term profitability, sure, but it might signal confidence to future investors down the line.
Puts the loss in a bit more context, maybe.
A little, but let's look at the core numbers now. Market cap around, what, $54.69 million? But the TTM, the trailing 12 months net income, is still deep in the red, a loss of about -$30.09 million. That TTM number really shows the cost of this whole push over the last year. It basically means every dollar of revenue they're bringing in right now costs them more than $1 to generate. That's only okay if that growth keeps accelerating and those AI efficiencies start kicking in really, really soon to cut costs.
Which leads us straight to the risk profile for anyone listening. This stock has been incredibly volatile. The 52-week range is huge, from 0.14 cents up to nearly $4.50. That's speculative territory.
They're highly speculative. And look at the beta, naga to 3.92. That's a really wild number.
Explain beta quickly for listeners who might not track that.
Sure. So beta measures how much a stock tends to move compared to the overall market, like the S&P 500. A beta of 1 means it moves with the market. A negative beta, especially one as large as NARG's 3.92, means this stock often moves in the opposite direction of the broader market. It tells you it's largely disconnected from general market trends and is driven almost entirely by its own news, its own story. Pure company-specific risk and speculation.
Okay, a negative beta that high, a $30 million loss. It sounds extremely risky. Yet the sources mention technical indicators, moving averages showing buy signals. How do those square up? Are they just noise?
That's the puzzle, isn't it? You see these buy signals from both short-term and long-term moving averages suggesting some underlying technical support or buying interest. But you have to weigh that against the fundamental risk shown by that beta and the losses. My read is that the technicals are reflecting short-term traders playing the volatility, trying to get in ahead of potential positive news or catalysts, rather than indicating deep long-term conviction necessarily. But there is consistent buying pressure at certain levels.
Okay, so speaking of catalysts, the next 3 months look absolutely crucial based on the calendar laid out in the sources. Lots of potential triggers for big moves.
Definitely. First up, and probably the most important, is the Q3 2025 earnings release that's scheduled for November 11th. Everyone will be watching. Can they keep up that impressive revenue growth? And more importantly, is there any sign that the net losses are starting to narrow? Is that AI efficiency starting to show up on the bottom line?
The cost curve needs to bend.
Exactly. If they can show progress there, the market could react very positively. If the losses are still widening significantly despite the growth, well, that's a different story.
And after the earnings, what else is on the radar?
Then we have broader market stuff. December 20th, there's an ETF rebalancing announcement. Depending on whether reAlpha gets included, excluded, or has its weighting changed in relevant ETFs, that could drive buying or selling purely for mechanical reasons. Affects liquidity too. And then looking into early next year, January 10th, 2026, we get the institutional holdings update. That'll be a key signal. Are the big money players, the institutions, starting to buy into the story, or are they still sitting on the sidelines? It tells you a lot about professional confidence.
Okay, so confirmed dates to watch. But beyond that, the sources also mentioned, rumors, speculative stuff that could pop up.
Yeah, the rumor mill is definitely active here, partly because that AI tech is genuinely interesting. One big one floating around is a potential strategic partnership, maybe with a large national brokerage or perhaps a big fintech player. An announcement like that would be huge validation and could instantly change the risk perception.
Then linking back to that AI again, talk about licensing it out.
That's another major piece of speculation. If they could license their AI mortgage tech to other lenders, wow. That creates a whole new, potentially high-margin revenue stream that doesn't rely on their own costly geographic expansion. That would be a potential game changer for profitability.
Right, selling the tools, not just using them.
Exactly. And finally, you always hear whispers with companies like this. M&A chatter, acquisition interest. Given their tech and relatively low market cap right now, it's not surprising there's speculation about someone potentially wanting to snap them up.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. For someone listening, considering reAlpha Tech Corp, what's the takeaway from all this?
Well, the sources paint a pretty clear picture, I think. You're not really investing in the company as it exists today. You're making a high-risk, high-reward bet on their ability to execute flawlessly on integrating that AI across their whole operation. Near term, everything hinges on keeping that revenue growth engine running while proving the AI can actually cut those big losses.
So it really depends on your time horizon and risk tolerance.
Absolutely. For short-term traders, you've got clear potential catalysts earnings in November, partnership rumors to trade around the volatility. For long-term investors, it's a deeper question. Do you believe this AI platform gives them a unique, sustainable, competitive advantage that will eventually lead to profitability and justify the current risk? It's a bet on the tech translating into profits, probably over the next couple of years at least.
Okay, so to wrap things up then, what's the final thought we should leave our listeners mulling over?
I think the crucial question to chew on is this. We see the crazy revenue growth and we hear about the impressive 99% accuracy of the AI. But how fast can the cost savings from that AI automation realistically start to make a dent in the huge costs of their expansion? Can efficiency gains outpace the spending required for growth? That's the fundamental tension. Watching how that balance plays out, especially in the upcoming November earnings, is probably the single most important thing to monitor right now.